So, good morning, everyone. So, it's a pleasure to have you all here this morning. We're very happy to have our dear friend Daniel Assisi with us. For many of us, you know him very well. He's very close to our heart. And this morning, he will be presenting to us a topic that talks about happiness, which is a search that all of us is still yet to find. But for those who do not know Daniel, he is a great speaker. He has been giving lectures all over the world in Portuguese and English. He has been also the de facto translator for Divaldo every time that he comes, or he used to come to the States. He has a doctorate in education, and he made a big jump probably for his own happiness, moving from or adding to that education another stand to his wonderful background on coaching. So for those who have not read his book, Way to Damascus, I think that's probably part of his journey of, inner transformation and becoming this new man. So not only helping us with his wonderful book, How to Begin a New Beginning, but starting with his own self on this amazing transformation. So with no delays, I would like us to take a deep breath. Elevate our thoughts to our dear God for this wonderful last opportunity to have someone we love among us, sharing his knowledge with each one of us. We know that we are never alone, even when we think we are. There are lots of spirits that surround us that can also absorb and nurture all this love that's going to be shared this morning. So we ask our dear Father to bless Daniel for his time, for his will, for his big heart. May he receive all the blessings of love, joy, health, and happiness, for his friendship, his compassion, and his support to our center. May we have a beautiful morning and a beautiful lecture. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, friends. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah, thank you for finding time in the middle of your holiday with your family. We feel really blessed. It's always so good to see your smile, and I can't wait to hear your words too. So you have the place.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's great to see your faces or read your names on Zoom. We know that we are all in different places today, but I just want to take a quick moment just to celebrate with you. I also see, and I just got a virtual tour of your new physical location. Congratulations. It looks amazing. And I can't wait to visit you in person. We know that we can do things virtually, and that's wonderful, but it's also great to be together. So I hope you guys enjoy your new physical space there, that you have a chance to come in to the group when you're ready and be part of that physical happiness, right? So with you today here, I hope to, first of all, ask for your patience. I'm not exactly at home today, so my computer systems might be a little bit different. And if for any reason the internet doesn't work too well, give me some grace here, as I will try to make the best out of it. But I just can't say that enough how happy and excited I am to be with you and to see you guys. It is really great. I feel like one of the greatest gifts that Spiritism has given me is something that was unexpected. I was hoping to find some new understanding on how one can look at life and understand life in general. And I certainly got that. But what I was not expecting, and it came as a surprise, was that I also got to make new friends, lifelong friends, many times in many instances, people that I would not have met were it not for Spiritism. So I count you guys amongst those people that have added to my life and have come through as a gift, really, from being able to connect with folks on very important matters. And if you have the patience today, I would really love to spend some time talking about happiness. And if you have the patience, I hope that we can do it about 40 minutes or so, and then maybe we can have a conversation, because I think happiness warrants conversations. And the way I want to frame this today is I want to talk about Jesus' first miracle, because I do think that happiness is a miracle, and I will explain that in a little bit if you have patience. But does that sound like a plan? You guys willing to hang in there for about 30 to 35 minutes, maybe 45? I get excited sometimes and I can't stop talking, but then you can always rein me in and say, Dan, too much, tone down a little bit. And I am here in a hotel room, so I apologize if the air conditioning kicks in. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. If you can't, or if it gets worse because the air conditioning comes in and out, let me know and I will try to switch to my other plan B here for audio. But I feel like it could be a wash. Like it's probably going to be the same thing, but we can try different things, right?
No, it's perfect, Dan. We can hear you perfectly well.
Great. That's wonderful. All right. So as I mentioned, what I would really like to talk to you about today is the miracle of happiness. And that's Jesus' first miracle, turning water into wine at the wedding at Cana. And I think that is just a lovely symbolic way for us to understand life in general, especially considering that we have lived in very different times, right? Very difficult times in many ways in these past, what is it, like 2.5 years now? But truth be told, we know that we have been struggling with joy and happiness because the world outside has been telling us that everything is not working out well. We have had this pandemic for the past 2 years or so, and that certainly has changed our lives. We have had more than 1 million people just in our country passed from COVID. It has created quite a bit of anxiety, quite a bit of fear, quite a bit of frustration, quite a bit of anger, quite a bit of everything. But on top of that, we have also been experiencing this racial tension that has also been bubbling for many decades. And we have some tension there as well in our society. We have obviously also have this political polarization that has driven families and friends to kind of yell at each other for the sake of politics. And more recently, we have also been witnessing the terrors of war in the Ukraine. So once we look outside into the world, I can understand why some people would feel really discouraged and would feel really sad and frustrated and even depressed about the affair of things. And I can also have a glimpse on why they would think that there is really no hope for humanity. But I beg to differ. I think that even though all these things are happening, there is a lot to be joyful for. And of course, we're not going to ignore the challenges that we are facing out in the world, that our brothers and sisters are facing out in the world. But we do want to talk about how to bring joy into our lives and why that's important. And so when I think about joy and why joy is important and why it's important to lead to joy, I really think about Jesus' first miracle. And Jesus' first miracle was a very interesting one because his first miracle was turning water into wine. And I call that the miracle of happiness. Hear me out. Because we're going to talk about the Gospel of John. And this passage in the Gospel of John in chapter 2, verses 1 through 11, we see Jesus going to a wedding in Cana. And in that wedding, I think all of us know the story. He and Mary and some of his disciples are there, and he transforms water into wine. And I say that that's the miracle of happiness, not because I like wine. That's nothing to do with it, but because I think it's very symbolic. So I'm hoping that today we can spend a couple of minutes reading together this 11 verses and pondering about the symbolism of this first miracle. Because as you might know, Jesus has performed many miracles while he was with us here on earth in a physical body. And in fact, some scholars count 34 different miracles that we find in the Bible, one of them being the resurrection, of course, and the 33 different ones. And this miracle of happiness, is the one that they understand to be the first one he performed in terms of chronology. And we find that in the Gospel of John, as I mentioned before. So all other miracles, all his more, let's say, flashy passage with us starts with this miracle, the miracle of turning water into wine, the miracle of happiness. And if he has started with happiness, then why can't we as well? So I hope that in a couple of minutes that we have, we'll read that together. We'll take some parts of that passage. We'll talk about it and see how it relates to our lives. So let's do it. So as I spoke about before, this is in the Gospel of John, chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. And what I'm going to propose that we do here is actually read a little bit of the of these 11 verses. And so, you know, I have chosen the New International Version of the translation. There are many different translations, but this one is easy to read. I myself am partial to King James, but has a little bit more poetic language. But let's do it. And I promise that we won't do this for very long. All right, so let's read the story. This is the story of the wedding at Cana. And Cana, by the way, is a city, obviously, in Jerusalem, that folks are not exactly sure where it is today, but nevertheless, you can place it in time, right? And here we go. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." And nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. So pretty big jars, right? Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. So they filled the jars to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." And so, you know, the master of the banquet is the head waiter, right? The person who's in charge of the entire banquet. And they did. And the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where he had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then the servant of the master of the banquet called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best until now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed him, right? So it is in many different ways, it is a simple story, right? It is a story of a wedding that took place. And as weddings would go back in the day, it was a multi-day affair. This is the third day of a party in which they are getting married. Jesus' mom is there, his disciples and friends are there, and they're celebrating. And what happens in the story, I think you follow with me, is they ran out of wine, and Jesus' mother, Mary, intervenes and says, "Jesus, do something about this. They ran out of wine." And Jesus says, "But hold on a second, it's not my time. It's not time for me to do anything that people can be awed by. This is not in the plans, not in the works." And she says, "Do something anyways. do something anyways. And she literally turns to the servants and starts bossing them around, and Jesus too, in a kind way, and says, you guys out there, whatever he tells you, you do it. And so the servants brought big pots of stone, right? They're really big. They're 20 to 30 gallons. So that's bigger than your car gas tank, for instance, right? It's really big. And these stone jars, they were used for purification. And we can talk a little bit more about that later. And so they filled that with water. Jesus then told them to take some of the water, which obviously he turned into wine, into the head waiter, the master of the banquet. But Jesus doesn't take the water. He asks other people, the servants, to do it, and they do. And to our surprise, the master of the banquet tastes the wine and realizes that this wine is really good. And so because he does not know where he came from, he goes to the bridegroom, to the guy who is getting married, right? Who's potentially paying for the party here in many different ways. And he says, wow, this is amazing. The second, this new wine that you bring in is way better than the one that was there before. And generally that doesn't happen. Generally what happens is people serve the best wine before, and when others can't taste it anymore, can really differentiate that anymore, they serve the worst wine. But you have done the opposite. And that's a simple story, right? So it is a very simple story. And you may ask, Dan, that's a simple story. What does it really have to do with our times? What does it really have to do with happiness in general? And I say, for me, and I hope that I can make the case today for you, I think it has a lot to do with our times. I think it has a lot to do about finding happiness and making it possible for us to be together and enjoy each other's company and rejoice, even in the midst of challenges like not having any more wine, right? So if you indulge me, let's pull some of these parts out so that we can kind of talk a little bit about the whole piece. Okay, so right in the beginning, we see that Jesus' mother was there, the scriptures tell us, and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. So what symbolism can we unravel from this? I think that it's really important for us to see that when we are given a list of who was at the party, we see that it was Jesus' mother and his disciples. And obviously, it's a party for some people that they knew, they were close by. You wouldn't just invite anybody into your wedding. Jesus' mother was there and his disciples. So this was the wedding party of somebody that was relatively close to them to be able to invite all of them. And I think that's important, because I think that the miracle of happiness happens first to those who are close to us. Sometimes we imagine that happiness comes from far away, that happiness comes from different places, different lands, different moments. But the truth is, it all starts with those who are close to us, as was Jesus' mother and was his disciples. So they were part of this wedding feast. They certainly knew other guests, and they were enjoying each other in that time and place. And I think that's a really powerful lesson for us, that we too can enjoy ourselves amidst the company of people that are surrounding us, and that there's reason to celebrate. But the interesting thing is that Jesus' mother, Mary, says to Jesus, they have no more wine. And she's worried that they have no more wine. And why is that important? Well, it's important because nobody generally plans for not having wine at a party, right? So whenever folks make a plan, they think about what it would take to cater a wedding and to make sure that everything is there. So it tells me, or at least I want to believe, that in a roundabout way, they had no more wine because they were really enjoying each other's company. And maybe they even invited more people than they had originally planned for, that in the joy to celebrate that special occasion, the connection between people, this wedding, right, this covenant, this agreement, they have overextended their list of guests and taken in more people than they had imagined, and they were all enjoying the partying and drinking wine. Now, it's also important for us to take a quick stop here and say, clearly, the party was going well, and it was a responsible and loving party, because there were no fights, there were not people getting drunk and falling off their tables. None of this would be taking place Otherwise, Mary would not have said, they would have, this is a problem that we have here. They ran out of wine, right? Because if the wedding was getting out of control, then they would all be glad that they ran out of wine and everything was done. But clearly, for me, we can surmise from this moment here that the atmosphere and the party and the banquet and the wedding feast, it's really a great one. People are really coming together. They're celebrating a special occasion, and they have simply ran out of wine, and they are just enjoying each other's company. And if they run out of wine, if they run out of food, eventually the feast ends and people go home. And so in that moment, I take it to mean that Mary wanted that moment of joy, that moment of companionship, of happiness that she was witnessing with everybody around to continue. And so that's why she says they have no more wine. They're worried. And she turns to Jesus to ask him to do something about it. Now, this is an interesting piece, right? Because she turns to Jesus and asks him to do something about it. And she doesn't ask him to go buy more wine. She asks him to go figure it out because she knows that he can do something about this. So she is keenly aware of his special nature, right? Of his spiritual evolution, so to say. She knows that this is a special person here, our older brother, as I like to call him, and he can do wonderful things. She's probably witnessed them before we have. And she, in the moment of not knowing where to turn to, she turns to her son and says, they've run out of wine, as if to say, do something. And Jesus, interestingly, turns to her and says, woman, why do you involve me? He says, it's not yet my hour. It's not yet my time. And it's also important for us to make a quick break here and say, when he says woman, this is not a derisive comment. He's not putting her down in any way, just a matter of which they spoke at that point in time. Yes, it was no doubt a very chauvinistic society in many ways, but I think we can agree that Jesus meant no disrespect to his mom, right? And so he turns around to her and says, woman, why do you involve me? It's not my time yet. And I think that's a beautiful moment, because what I hear from Jesus' answers is that he wasn't planning in that particular point in time to show up and make miracles, right? It was not yet the time to do that. Yet she asked him to intervene. She asked him to do something about it. And eventually we know that he does, right? But I think it's important for us to note that it is because of her request that we have the party continue. And I think that is a beautiful symbolism in our lives, that sometimes those who are close to us can intervene in a positive way in our lives and help us continue to get the party going, even when we are not aware of it. Because you might remember at the end of the day, the guests did not know that Jesus transformed water into wine. And they don't even know that it was really Mary who interceded with Jesus and said, you've got to do this. Please do this. Please help them be happy. And I think that is a really beautiful point for us to hang on for a minute longer, because it might happen in our lives too. When we are going through everyday challenges, we might not be aware that there are other people intervening on our behalf, to Christ, to spirituality, to our mentors and guides, and asking them for help for us. Let us set in for a second there. Let that come into your heart. We are going about our days, often worried about our own challenges, and we have forgotten at times that there are spiritual friends and mentors, whether they are incarnate or discarnate, who are asking for help for us because they care about us. And that is a beautiful thing to take in, to realize that even when we are not aware, we have people who love us, be it from this lifetime or for life before, who are working towards making us happy, who are asking God for us to continue to find happiness and joy in our lives. We forget that at times. We think that we are alone. We think sometimes that all the benefits we enjoy are purely the result of our talents. And while, of course, we have a lot to say in what happens to us, Sometimes we don't either. Sometimes we're also the receivers of benefits that come from the kindness of others. And I think it's an important thing for us to remember. I think that's an important thing for us to understand, that that particular point, that whole miracle of happiness, that whole prolonging of that joy that we felt was because somebody intervened and asked to ask Christ, which here is a symbol for God, divinity, and everything that's incredibly wonderful, that we still have sometimes trouble grasping, to act on our behalf. And we see that that is in fact the case, right? She manages to convince him out of the kindness of her heart because she really wants them to be happy. And Jesus really sees that. And he acts on that. And she really turns even to the servants, because she will not take a no for an answer, right? Because she cares about those people so much. She wants everybody who's there to enjoy that wonderful, responsible, kind, nurturing atmosphere of this wedding banquet, this psychosphere of love. So she goes straight to the servant and says, I don't know what Jesus is going to do, but hey, you guys who are working the party here, you guys who are the helpers, whatever he tells you to do it, right? Because he knows what he's doing, right? And so that's a really interesting piece, because again, for me, we see the multitude of workers, the multitude of people who are working towards our happiness in the spiritual realm. Not only we have those who are close to us and who care about us, asking the higher realms for our well-being, we also have those mentors and guides who are working in different parts of our lives or different institutions, be it a spiritist group or be at work or whatever it is that you are. There's also other people who are working to make that party a successful one. There is an amazing amount of spiritual beings who are giving of their time for us to be happy and to succeed. And so I love that we sometimes forget. I mean, I love that this exposes the fact that sometimes we forget that spirituality is always a work. Much the same way in a party, sometimes we don't see those people who are serving us. In our physical lives, sometimes we forget that there are spiritual beings, mentors, benefactors, guides, as we said, who are working very tirelessly to make sure that we have what we need to continue to progress in our incarnation. I think that's made more apparent to us as we begin to study Spiritism and realize through reading many different books, such as the books by Andrea Lewis and so forth, that there's always work to be taking place, in the spiritual realm. But that's nice for us to kind of consider as well. So she says, do whatever he tells you. And then what does he do? Well, he sees 6 stone jars, the kind used for Jews for ceremonial washing. These are really big jars, right? They are like, imagine a big stone, like a stone jar that's basically like almost half your size, and it fits 20 to 30 gallons. It's really big. These stone waters, the stone water jars, apologies, they were used for Jewish ablution or purification. What does that mean? Within aspects of the Jewish culture, at certain point in times, people and women as well were expected to cleanse themselves, to be prepared to partake in spiritual endeavors, whether it is to go into the temple. There's many different ways in which they did that. But I think there is a symbolism here for us. And here's what I take away from the 6 stone water jars that were used for ceremonial washing. Jesus is not just making the wine be multiplied within people's cups. He's making them show up in the stone water jars, right? And I think the symbolism is here, that the same water that's used for purification of the body is now transformed into wine so that we can have a purification, a transformation of our spirit. By producing that wine, which is going to go inside of us, there is a symbolism that we need to take in this new wine, this new perspective, this new fuel of sorts to help us continue to be happy in a powerful and transformative way. You see, The ceremonial washing happens on the outside. We just pour in our bodies. But now the wine is going to go inside. And so I think Jesus' transformation speaks the need for us to ingest it, to ingest the spiritual reality that we are spiritual beings and make that part of our core. That change has to be inside. See, we often talk about change as it's something that happens on the outside, but for change to truly happen, it has to take place within our hearts and minds first. And I think that's what Jesus is telling us. Jesus is telling us that for us to keep the party going, we need to bring it in. We need to go dive deep inside and find out what is it that really will take to get there. So in a way, the 6 stone water jars, they really tell us that we have to take a different perspective to happiness. We can't just expect that happiness will come from the outside. We have to bring it in. And here's an interesting thing as well, because Jesus says to the servants, fill the jars with water. He could have, we just witnessed, right? We just read that he transformed wine into water into wine. So clearly something special happened there. He could have easily have filled the jars with water himself just by willing it to be there, because he had the ability to do that. Yet he asks the servants to do their part. They are the ones who fill the jars with water. And I think there is a beautiful symbolism in there too, that we just don't sit and pray and wait for God to do wonders in our lives. That we also have to do our contribution. We also have to fill those 6 stone water jars, right, with water, with what we have. We may not know how to make wine yet, but we can put water in those jars. That is to say, we may not know how to make happiness happen in our lives just yet, but we've got to try and do whatever it is that we can. And then spirituality, Jesus, God, whatever you want to call, will help you transform that water into wine. But you have to do something. You have to move. You have to try. You have to want to and be willing to take that step forward. And there are servants, that is, there are workers who are constantly doing this. They might not know yet how to make wine, but they are putting their best foot forward, and so should we. And so for those moments, when we are struggling with the world, when we are struggling about whether we can keep our spirits in a high note, if we are having a tough time perhaps and think that there's nothing we can do and we don't know where to go, do something. Let's fill our jars with water. Even if it's not the ultimate solution to things, it's important for us to get up, move around. And if you're feeling a little depressive at home, go for a walk, get that movement in, talk to somebody, read a good book. It may not solve the challenges that you have, perhaps that little depressive tendency that kicks in a difficult world completely, but it is something. And once you put yourself in motion, once you put the water into that jar, then you are giving an opportunity for our mentors to transform it into wine. So we've got to do something. We've got to move. We've got to try. We can't let ourselves be discouraged, because without that water, according to this story, we don't have wine. So if you have a desire to drink that wonderful second wine that Jesus speaks about, this wine of joy, you have to bring in some water. You have to make it happen. Of course, a lot of it will be done by spirituality, but it's up to us to also do something about it. And here's another aspect of it that I think is really interesting too. And I know I'm babbling here, so hang in there with me. We're almost done. The master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine, right? The head waiter, the manager of the party. And he did not realize where he had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. And here's a very interesting piece, because Jesus could very well have just have people call the master of the banquet over and say, I am going to make wine, or here's the wine. But he doesn't do that, right? He actually has other people help him. And these other people are the ones who take the wine to the master of the banquet. You see, spirituality is so deep and so beautiful that they do not seek recognition. And so unless we know, unless we are really looking, we may not know where the benefits and blessings in our lives come from. You see, for the manager of the banquet, and we're going to see for the other bridegroom as well, right? They thought that the servants brought it. They thought that the bridegroom had purchased the wine, but that was not the case. Jesus was the one who transformed it because of a request by Mary. And so that's another reminder of how oftentimes we don't pay attention to how the miracles in our life take place. The miracle of you being where you are today, of having the job that you do, or having the companions that you do, or having the chance to have ran into somebody who knew somebody who told you about Chico Xavier Learning Center in Portland, and here you are. You may perhaps neglect that for these things to happen, whether it be your job, whether you be where you are, find your partner, find something meaningful in your life, there was a whole chain of events, spiritually speaking, that led you there. And so he ponders, it creates space for us to ponder if we are taking time to be grateful about all those who are impacting us in our lives. Sometimes we don't realize where these blessings come from. But now that we are studying Spiritism and understanding a little bit more the law, cause, and consequence, understanding that there are indeed discarnate spirits, beings just like us, but without a physical body, in their true nature, who continue to labor in the spiritual realm, wherever we are. So it's important for us to recognize that there is bigger forces at play, that there are bigger planning and kindness at work in our lives. If for anything else, not for us to feel guilty, not at all, for us to remember one more time that there's people who care deeply about us and they really want us to be happy. All right. And here's the end of this whole piece, right? Where the chief of the banquets, right? The head waiter, so to speak, the manager of the party says to the bridegroom, because he thinks that the bridegroom was the one who bought the wine, right? He thinks that the bridegroom was the one that caused all these things, but he doesn't know what has happened. He turns to him and says, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. And what a powerful awareness that is too, friends. Because if you think about it, that is true, isn't it? Most people would bring the first wine first. And people would enjoy it, and then they would lose their senses a little bit because they've imbibed, they've drank a little bit, they are not paying attention, and they would just keep drinking, right? And not really know what's happening. But with Jesus and spirituality, it's slightly different. It is not about just that drunkenness of not feeling things, of enjoying everything here and now. It's about continuity. It's about that second wine. And can you imagine what wine that might have been for folks to be able to feel that the second wine, the second batch of wine, was better than the first? It must have been a really special wine. And I wonder if at times we also don't forget that we are going to be served a second batch of wine. And as a matter of fact, that we are being served the second batch of wine, which is better than the first right now. And I think and wonder if that second batch of wine is not the understanding that life goes on after the end of our physical body. If it's not the understanding of spirituality and spiritual realm in general. Because once we begin to truly accept that and drink that and bring that wine of transformation into our lives, we begin to realize that no matter what, no matter whether we pass away today or if those who are close to us pass away tomorrow from COVID or anything else, or war or challenges, no matter what may happen, even though it could be sombering and it could be sad, it will not be the end of them. and it will not be the end of us. When we make time to think about the proof that Spiritism brings us, that life goes on, because we see now the spirits, we talk to the spirits, we read books written by spirits, we realize that this transformation is in an incredible, beautiful moment, that death does not exist. And that is a truly incredible wine to savor, to know that those who you love will never stop being who they are. They will never cease to be. You might not see them for a little bit, but who they are is not gone, and that they are there. Can there be a better, more fulfilling, and wonderful realization than to know for sure that love will always be in your life, that the mother that you love, the father that you care for, the husband or wife that you adore, the children that you give your life for, that they will always be there, that they will always be connected to you, that they will always love you, and that love is always going to be there no matter what. That is an incredible awareness that should keep the spiritual party in our hearts going for a while. But to do that, we need to kind of reflect on it. We need to let that second wine come into our hearts for us to realize and spend time digesting that and knowing that we are going to be okay because we are spiritual beings first. And that's really important, especially in days like ours, because we know that the science of stress tells us that if we focus too much on negative things, all we are going to see is negative things. So we're going to shift ever so slightly here for a quick second from the gospel to science, because they are truly connected. And once we see that, we're going to see that the science of stress tells us that there is this hormone called cortisol that's produced by our brains, by our bodies, when we are stressed. And the idea for cortisol is a really beautiful one from an evolutionary perspective. When we are threatened, when we are under stress, our brain produces cortisol, and cortisol enhances the brain's use of glucose. That is to say, starts burning our energy, because in that moment of stress, right, when we were thousands of years ago walking down the forest, and then we saw a tiger in front of us, and we know that the tiger was dangerous. And cortisol kicked in and gave us this rush of energy so that we could run away, we could fight, we could do whatever it is that we needed to do. And cortisol also increases the availability of substances that repair our tissue. So in case you needed to fight or wrestle with that tiger, your body automatically start producing these things that repair the issues, that will protect your body to make sure that you survive, right? But here's an interesting thing. At the expense of limiting your awareness of anything else. So when you are in stress, the body focuses on that stressful situation to protect you, at least historically, right, from millenniums of evolution, to protect you from the dangers ahead. But because you were being attacked by that tiger, all you see is the tiger. In the moment when you are in danger, cortisol is going to help you focus on that danger, but it will not help you see the beauty of the trees that also exist there in the woods, on how the butterflies are flying, because in that moment, all you're thinking about is a tiger that's attacking you or might attack you, right? So why do I say that? I say that because physically speaking, we are all conditioned in many different ways. Oops, lots of Dan's there all of a sudden on the screen. We are conditioned by stress to only pay attention to the factors that are dangerous and are stressing us out. So, in a way, our evolutionary development has helped us get here where we are today. And it's time for us to re-educate that, because we are no longer often attacked by tigers in woods. Our challenges now are emotional, they're different, right? They're obviously physical still, but it's time for us to understand that we need to deprogram ourselves from only paying attention to that which causes harm. So when you look at the world outside and you see COVID and you see war and you see tension, of course, all of that is still there, but you can choose to not be dragged down by the effects of cortisol. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to do things differently and say, yes, there is a lot of pain and suffering in the world, but I will not add to that. I will choose to see the happiness and the joy where it is, or where I can find it. And maybe the joy is in small things. Maybe the joy is in that cup of coffee in the morning when you wake up. Maybe the joy is waking up and having time for yourself. Maybe the joy is reading a good book, whether it's an uplifting book or a murder mystery or whatever it is. Maybe the joy is you looking at the mirror and saying, I am healthy today. Maybe joy is spending time with the people you care. There's so many reasons for us to be grateful and happy for what we have that sometimes we forget to do it. Sometimes we just focus on the news of war, challenges, tension, anger. We don't mean to be dismissive here and say we shouldn't have help or that that's not happening. But we do need to make time in our lives to let go of the effects of cortisol, which are brought about by our own focus of our minds. We need to give space in our hearts for that wine, for that party that Jesus is bringing to us, this first miracle, because every other miracle he's performed, everything else came after he first helped that party enjoy happiness, enjoy the moment. And I think that is the greatest awareness and takeaway from the story, that everything begins with happiness. Everything begins with joy. If you are able to start your day and direct your life to being grateful for things, if you're able to find a moment of joy and realize that joy is a great place to be, and you can be joyful even in the middle of challenges, even in the middle of war, even in the middle of pandemic, you can experience joy. You don't have to be guilty. You don't have to feel guilty about it. It's okay for you to be happy, have moments of happiness, even when you're in difficult times. As a matter of fact, I honestly think that being happy and being joyous is a act of rebellion these days, because everybody almost expects you to be either sad, stressed, tired, angry. And when you're not, you're breaking that cortisol loop. You're breaking these expectations. You're breaking the psychosphere that has been weighing on us. Because at the end of the day, the word gospel means good news. When Jesus came to be with us, he says, I bring you good news. He brings us a message that should lift our hearts. If the message of the Christ that you are hearing is one of guilt and shame and pain and suffering, I urge you to reconsider it, because the Christ has come to give us good news. If that's what you're hearing, if you're hearing suffering, pain, depression, then maybe we need to refocus things a little bit, because you should be focusing on happiness, because that is the first miracle that makes all other miracles possible. It's the understanding that people are constantly acting on our behalf, just like Mary asked Jesus, just like the servants carry the water to the manager. There's a whole plethora of people, a whole group of people who are acting on our behalf, who are intervening with many different people higher up, and who are actually rolling up their sleeves to make sure that we have an opportunity to enjoy that which we have. That's one of them. And I think the other takeaway is you can be happy here and now. But for that, we need to take into our hearts this new wine, this new certainty this new approach to life that tells us that we have to cleanse ourselves, not on outwardly, not from the clothes we wear and how we look, but we have to cleanse ourselves from the old habits we have developed over time that have served us well up to this point. But now we have to reinvent them and say, I will no longer worry just about my survival. I will worry about how to truly be happy, because I know that I was created by God to be happy. I was put in this place and time because God loves me so much as to allow me to make a difference in this world. God would never have put me or you, we should tell ourselves, in a situation where we are unable to succeed and thrive, because that would mean that God is a mean God. So every situation that we're put in is because there's something for us to learn. It is because we are able to solve it and we are able to contribute to the world around. And so if we have been put here in this difficult time of our history where a lot of things are going on, is because God is counting on you to bring that joy from within, to make a transformation into this world and to this world and for this world. Sure, it may be that we are unable to snap our own fingers here today and stop the war in the Ukraine, but we can prevent other wars from sprouting by making sure we're kind and tolerant in the way we go about doing things. We can disarm this difficult polarized world of ours by toning down our aggression, toning down our anger, and focusing on happiness and joy. So the question that comes to us in many different ways is, what will we do from here on? Now that we know that Jesus has set us in a path of happiness, that joy is a necessary component for us to realizing our true self, what is it that we are going to do? Because many times, I think that that is the invitation that lingers, that we are placed here in this world and we have access to this wonderful lessons from our older brother Jesus, who showed us, not only telling us, but showed us how is it that we can, as he described, win over life. How can we understand that the sufferings of this physical world are temporary, and all the challenges that we face are temporary and they are solvable, like we said? How can we make time in our lives, in our days, to think about our spiritual selves? Because for me, friends, that is the core of the issue. We have been graced by so many wonderful learnings about spirituality, about how the spiritual world works, in ways that very few people in this planet have had a chance to grasp with. We know that life goes on because we talk to the spirits, we interact with them. Now, are we making time to drink that second wine, to let that come into ourselves and change the way we behave and act? What are we doing to go about our lives every day with the mindset that we are not being threatened and that we are immortal beings and that we have to add to things? When we go out, it's a question that I ask myself often. When we go out, do we remind ourselves that we are immortal beings and everybody around us is an immortal being as well, and that we are all trying to be better? Or do we instead let our insecurities speak louder, let our instincts kick in, and we compete for things that are not going to last? So, all that to say, when we begin to drink this second wine, when we let this first miracle that Jesus performed into our hearts, he has the possibility of transforming us in ways that we cannot even fathom at this point in time. The most wonderful thing would also happen. Not only will we transform ourselves and feel better about ourselves, we will also make a sizable contribution for those around us to feel like they can also and be happy, bring joy, because joy can be contagious. So I hope the more and more we can have the fortitude and the state of presence to remind ourselves to start our days with a reflection around our true nature, our immortal spirit, and carry that onto our lives so that we know that everything that worries us perhaps should not, because we are going to outlive this physical body, and the relationships we have will only increase. And that is perhaps the ultimate gift, which brings us back to how we started. Sometimes we forget to realize that we are building an incredible support network. We're building an incredible spiritual family in every lifetime we have. Because in every lifetime we have, we meet more people, we make more friends who don't stop being our friends when we die, when we discarnate. Much the same way that we don't stop loving those whom we love when they pass away, right? And so in our lives, we continue to add a realm of love and gratitude, a roster of people who care about us in ways that really transform us. So let's keep going forward. Let's celebrate each other's happiness. Let's celebrate our own happiness. Let's drink from the wine of spirituality that helps us transform ourselves. And keep in mind that Jesus' first miracle was that of happiness, and that can be ours too. And everything can change from there. And with that, I'm going to stop talking. Otherwise, I get carried away. But this is what I wanted to share with you today, is this perspective that it is okay for us to be happy. As a matter of fact, maybe we should work a little bit on our happiness in this point in time.
Thank you so much, Dan. Always so good to hear you. And I think it's an important reflection for us in a moment that, anxiety, depression is such a big concern of the society, in the way that we have been using our times, kind of like getting drawn into the problems that we have in our work or in our lives, and kind of the global perspective too. One thing that you didn't mention, just making a joke, is that you see, Jesus was Jesus, but he did what his mom told him to do. And I was really impressed. Maybe we should show that to our kids too. But Jesus obeyed his mother.
Yeah, he did. She made him, right? Like, it's like,
yeah.
He didn't even take a no for an answer. He's like, it's not my time yet. She's like, I don't care about you. You guys over there, you do what he tells you. He's gonna do it.
Exactly. So you do what I say. You do what I tell you to do. No arguing. And I think that that's another example too, kind of honoring parents, that even him kind of being the planetary Christ obeyed his mom. But then this thing that we can always make little miracles, right? As you said, kind of bringing the water that can be transformed in anything. And I think that water is really our goodwill, our interest in making a difference. This morning, when I was preparing the center for this call, it was a chapter from the book Saturdays Legends that was talking exactly about that. How many of us really kind of say, oh, I wish I could do this. I wish, oh, this is so beautiful. This can help me so much. But they do not, or we many times, we do not kind of jump the fence and move from words to real practice, right? It's because, I have a busy family, I have a lot of work, or I travel a lot, or, this is not the right time in my life. And we are always pretty good in giving excuses. And to what you said, the only thing that Jesus is asking us to do is to give some water so he can make the miracle. And that miracle, it goes inside us and suddenly can feed thousands of people. And then kind of going back to the wedding ceremony, thinking at that time, the weddings were pretty large. And as you said, the significance of happiness as well, because for those of us who have been married, we know the significance of the wedding. We know the significance of, it was a multi-day party. And kind of it would be pretty shameful to think that they would be without food or without drinks, right? And Jesus showing compassion about that and understanding that, yeah, you know, this seems so small, right? So why is it important just to have wine? So what? This is not, relevant. But it wasn't the wine itself. It was what the wine represented in that moment, right? Another thing that is, as you were saying, that kind of kept me thinking was the symbolism of wine, right? Of that era, the wine meaning life. And then for those who do not know, when we do tinting, is that the wine has such a symbolism of wine, of life, that the wine has color. That's why we bring the goblet and to see the white through the light, or we smell the light, the wine. And the only thing that the wine doesn't have is the sound. That's why we do the tinting, right? To show that the wine has life. So in that aspect as well, and the symbolism of wine, even if we think about the Last Supper, that there was wine and bread. It wasn't water and bread. There's a special symbolism of that. But on the search of happiness, I really appreciate the way that you were able to dive down and kind of linking, the symbolism of the episode in Jesus' time with science, and how many of us really kind of got locked into our cortisol, kind of just running, around our tails and looking for something that is not as important. Thank you. And now I share my thoughts, and I open the floor for people to ask questions and share their thoughts too.
Dan, how are you?
How are you doing?
I was worried for a little while. I was concerned that just the wine would bring me happiness, and I don't like wine. But joke aside, it was a very good reflection. I really enjoyed, and have to see everyone. Thank you.
No, it's great to hear your voice, Nietzsche, and absolutely, no, I am not a wine person either, to be honest with you, right? Funny enough, our taste changed in life. I used to like wine. I don't like wine that much anymore. Do I hate wine? No. But is it something that I'm like, oh, I'm going to go drink some wine? No. But I think that you nailed it. I think that the symbolism, right, of the joy on that transformation. And I think we can also kind of expand that further and think that wine takes time to make, right? Wine is the product of grapes that have to grow in a specific way, that have to be harvested, that have to be smushed and have to be fermented, that it takes time to get to that point, and that takes work. And we forget that sometimes, right? And so the transformation from water to wine, yeah, right?
Patience, right?
Patience and diligence, right? And I think it has a lot to do with, again, like the fact that he has asked the servants to fill the jars with water, right? He's constantly, I mean, let's be honest here for a second. Jesus could have done all the work. He could have just snapped his finger, or not even, and everybody would have been, full of wine. I mean, we see his miracles all the time. And it's always fascinating. Why doesn't he do that? Because I think that he is teaching us. He's a fantastic educator. He's giving us opportunities to bring what is it that we can to the mix so that we can learn. The servants don't know how to make wine, but they know how to fill the jugs with water, right? The banquet doesn't know who's coming from, but he knows where the wines have to go. So he's constantly giving us an opportunity, because he knows that once we do things, we learn. And that's why it's so beautiful that he has always, I think this is a constant that you see in Jesus throughout the New Testament, right? Throughout the Bible. People come to him and they ask for his help, and he always asks them, What do you want? What do you need of me? It's not because he's being condescending. It's because he wants people to be very clear with themselves. What is it that they need? He doesn't need anything, right? He's got it. As a matter of fact, he's here with us to teach us how to get there, right? And but he is this excellent teacher that gives us a chance to learn and take on the tasks that we can when we can, even if we're not able to make that wine just yet. He lets us carry that water. He responds to our requests, right? I think your point, even if we do this in jest earlier on about like Jesus obeyed Mary, right? Jesus fulfilled Mary's request because he could feel her desire to really help other people. And therefore, he did it. And because there was also no harm to anybody else, right? As in, sometimes we have the sense that there is this plan for our lives, and that is true. But we can take charge of what we want to do. And if it benefits ourselves and others, spirituality would also put effort into making that happen. So it's a beautiful reminder that we have to roll up our sleeves. We have to believe that we can do it. And this is a message that our world often tells us, right? There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing that we can do about it. We are being told this all the time, right? No, it's outside of control. Stay in your lane. That's not your job. Not my problem, right? All these things all the time. But actually, there's a lot we can do. We may not be able to end the war tomorrow, but we can be kind to each other, right? And we can change our mindset. And when we change our mindset, we change our world. So it's a wonderful, there's so many layers there that we can kind of, anyways, I'll stop babbling. You know me. But there's so many things that we can do, right?
I think that there's another thing that you said about him asking for help, right? So even having the 12 apostles, even though he, as the master of the planet, he will probably be able to do stuff much better than anyone else. But I think kind of showing us that we can be part of the solution, right? And when he asks for help, when he brings other people, he's showing us the importance of this teamwork, because maybe Jesus could do it by himself, but we cannot.
He's a trainer per excellence. He's a builder. He's a lifter, right? I mean, he could have done things easier. And I think many of us may even entertain these thoughts in our everyday life. When we hire somebody, when we have somebody working with us, sometimes when they're new, it's easier for us to go ahead and do that task because it will be faster than us teaching somebody else. But if we don't do that, then when will they be able to step up to the task, right? So if Jesus didn't spend time teaching us, how could we possibly learn? And I'm going to make a bridge here. This is a really tough one for us to kind of understand, but Spiritism really helps us. If we didn't face challenges in our lives, if we weren't put in difficult situations, how could we possibly get better, right? So in a roundabout way, this is the scary part, right? But once we begin to understand reincarnation and spirituality, you are really grateful for your problems because we are here in this world to face problems. The bigger the problem you have, the greatest the compliment divinity is giving you, saying, aha, you are ready to solve these challenges. You've got this, right? So it's a mindset change when we wake up and say, all right, obviously we're not going to be looking for problems, right, people? We're not going to be creating problems so we can solve them. Let's be clear about this. But once you find a problem, remind yourself, that's what I'm here for. I am here to solve problems. I can do this. You might not be able to do it by yourself. You might be able to do it with others. And you might not have the solution that you prefer, but you are able to tackle that. And that's a beautiful mindset. We stop being less complaining and more like, okay, thank you for the opportunity. Let's see what I learned from this.
Yeah, I got an AP class, right?
Yeah. Luis, you have your hand up. Your virtual hand, I should say.
Yes, exactly. So Dan, thank you very much for your time and your lovely talk this morning. It is very inspiring the way that you approach. And for me, it was a realization that when you think about Jesus, everything he did was for a reason, right? And this, he didn't do hundreds of miracles. So, and you think about the first miracle being that one, bringing happiness to people, there has to be a message, right? I think that's when you look through this lens, and for me, I have never looked it into this, you know, the miracle of transforming water into wine from that perspective. For me, it was a mind-blowing today, just having this realization, right? To think about it, and how many, you know, downstreams, you know, thoughts that it triggered on my mind just to think about it, right? What is there has to be a message, because it wasn't randomly that he decided to do that. I know that it was triggered by, you know, by Mary asking him to do so, but, you know, he thought, and then he decided to make it happen. So there has to be a message, and I think that when you look at through some ways, and throughout my whole life, you know, being studying the spiritism and being working with different people, there are some tendencies sometimes of people only talking about the bad things, or, you know, the burdens that you have to carry, or the karma, or, you know, I know cause and effect, and that's you have to deal with all those troubles. But when you stop for a moment and then you think about, hey, yes, I have to, you know, there is a law, and if I did something wrong, I need to, you know, evolve. But Jesus is not doing that to punish us; it's to teach us. And if you take, you know, this lens of a happiness on your task, and a happiness on even to go to your, you know, to this evolution process, rather than looking at it as a punishment, looking at it as an opportunity to evolve, opportunity to learn, opportunity to be a better person. That, you know, I think that was a really good point of view, and I just want to say thank you. I mean, for me, it was a moment of realization this morning. So thank you very much.
Oh, I love it. But let's thank JC, right? Because he's bringing the message. And here's a really powerful thing that you said that sometimes we forget, right? Sometimes these habits that we have of thinking about only suffering, and, like, you know, they are multi-incarnational, right? These are habits that we have built for many lifetimes. So it might be that we don't completely figure it out in this life, but we got to keep working at it, right? And absolutely true. Isn't it incredible how when we can change our perspective, we can see things and act things in different ways? I wholeheartedly agree. Like, he was very intentional about this, right? As a matter of fact, you're generally going to find Jesus talking about joy and happiness and enjoying the moment and being with people and reminding us of all this, because I think he knows that sometimes we're really hard on ourselves and we forget to kind of raise our minds. I mean, we now know, I think everybody who's on this call today now know that we are not going to die. I mean, our physical body will, but who we are will not. But have we felt this, right? Like, it's the longest journey, I think, sometimes is the journey from the mind to the heart, right? It's 12 inches or whatever it is, but it's a really long journey. How do we bring that into our hearts? And how do we deal with our insecurities, our fears, you know, all these things that all of us carry? All of us have it. That's why we're here, right? And yet sometimes it feels like we are the only ones who are struggling with it, right? We're all struggling in mental health. We're all struggling with depressive states at times, especially in this world of ours, right? In different moments. We're doing in different moments. We're all struggling with stuff. And this is my favorite piece, when I get to myself to those moments, right? I ask myself, yes, and what else is true? It's a powerful question. Yes, the world is, you know, a tough place right now. And what else is true? There's also kindness out there. Yes, there's a war going on. Yes, and what else is true? Well, there's a lot of love right now. I see a lot of people helping each other. You know, like, we've got to make sure that we detach ourselves from that cortisol induced, I'm only going to focus on the negative. Because the world wants us to, right? You can make money of focusing people on the negative. You can move them when you put fear into them, right? It's a lot harder to put love into them, because that means that they get to choose how they act, right? So, but it's a beautiful moment. And this is maybe the call of our times. This is maybe a call for today, for our lives. Like, how do we say yes and? How do we ask ourselves, what else is true, right? Because the world can be more than one thing at once, and so can we.
I'm thinking about the book from Dan Siegel that you introduced me to, that talks about the wheel of awareness, which is also this ability of kind of put us as an observer of the situations, right? Instead of being horny to them. And also being able to interrelate and connect the dots, not only kind of the left brain with the right brain, but also the me with we, and what's, what surrounds me, understanding that everything is related. I think when we do that, it kind of gets easier. I mean, kind of stepping yourselves from the problem and looking at the problem and thinking, okay, what else? As you said, and what else?
Yeah. It's the utmost battle is inside our minds and hearts. It's not what the outside world tells us, right? It's how we are going to react to it. And that we always have a choice. We may not have a choice and sometimes of what situations we find ourselves in, because we know cause and consequence, right? And sometimes we don't remember our past lives, but we know that we've put in positions today. You must have been, like, the reason why you have the life you have today is because it's somewhat related to those before, right? We understand it's cause and consequence in the universe, but you might not know why, but you're there. And you might say, wow, this is really unfair. It could be unfair from this perspective, right? And what are you going to do about it, right? From the bigger perspective, it's not unfair. But from the smaller perspective, it might be. Much the same way, if you start watching a Netflix series halfway through it, you might know the plot, right? In that episode, you think that guy is a bad guy, right? But you haven't seen the ones previous, and you haven't seen how he got there, right? So sometimes we do that with ourselves too. So I think those techniques, I think those ideas of like thinking about things differently, removing ourselves from the perspective and kind of making an idea, like trying to create a new piece. Put yourself in the balcony, sometimes I say it, right? What it would look like if you were watching yourself from a balcony down, like, the situation develop and you were just watching it. How would you think about it differently? Like, how can we use this commonsensical approach that Kardec taught us so well when he, for instance, tells us about how to judge spirit communication in the Medium's book? He has some wonderful criteria on how do we judge whether communication is true, which makes him one of the first fake news buster out there, right? I mean, we can use those techniques to bust fake news in our lives too. How do we make sense of what people are telling us and whether that's true or not? How do we take a balanced approach? Can we place that aside for a little bit and just kind of hold it there, right? So there's a lot of different things happening in the world today, and we have wonderful messages and examples. And this is what I like the New Testament. I like the Bible so much. I call it the book of change. All the stories are about change, about how do we change ourselves. If we're only able to break the veneer, right, of organized religion and things that we were told, and sometimes we think that we must just blindly follow, right? So like I'm learning to let go of these preconceived notions of what the Bible of Jesus and these stories are about. And that's why I like diving in these old stories and looking at them again with this new knowledge that Spiritism has given me with reincarnation and divine justice. I mean, sometimes I'm gonna stop talking. It's hard, but while I have this, like, soapbox here, sometimes I feel like I don't realize how awareness of reincarnation and spirit life has changed the way I act. Right? Because it happens every day and little by little, and sometimes we forget that we have come a long way. Are we the people that we want to be? Probably not yet. Right? I think that if we all look, I think somebody was saying here, and I think it's something that is common to everybody else. When we start to really look inside and looking at our own lives and everything else, we start finding the dirt. that we didn't want to see before, right? And we start feeling not so great about ourselves, right? And I think it was Letitia who was saying that, right? Like in the beginning, when we begin, we feel guilty sometimes of the things we do or that we're not doing. And I get it. We all feel that. But there's more to us. Let's free ourselves from that moment and do all these wonderful things. Because he did say, and when I say he, Jesus, all that I have done, you too will be able to do it more, right? So all these incredible things, eventually we will be able to do. Will it be tomorrow? Probably not. I'm going to venture a guess and say probably not next week, right? But isn't it reassuring that we are going to get there one day, which means we are going to find our happiness? The matter is, like, the question is how fast and how we're going to do it, right? And sometimes when we remove that barrier and we think that we are not going to be able to get there, that we're not deserving, that we're not good enough, all that has to go. That's really difficult, but all that has to go somehow. But anyways, how did I get here? I went off on a tangent. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. But you get the point. I think it's a really beautiful moment for us to remember that there's joy in our lives and how wonderful it is. For instance, like, let's celebrate small things that sometimes we forget. You guys are on a Saturday at 10 in the morning, which I presume is probably a decent day, right? It's a decent day out here in the desert. And you're looking at a screen, right? With this dude that you don't really sort of know, right? You have taken time to be together in this group to exercise thinking about things that perhaps could be important. And that is a victory in itself. You have chosen the hardest thing, not to just seek entertainment and personal satisfaction, to dive deeper into more spiritual things, things that speak to your soul. That, my friends, is an accomplishment in a world where that doesn't happen frequently. So I'm not saying that you're here, that you're great because you're listening to me, quite the opposite, right? I'm saying, like, hey, you should recognize that whether I'm seeing good things or bad things, like, you are devoting time for you to think about important things. Those are small victories, right? That's really something great to celebrate. When you go out to the center on that Wednesday night or whatever it is, right? Like, when you're tired, you have kids, you're late, and you just will yourself to get there, even though you don't want to go, because we all have those moments. Let's be honest, we're all human, right? You go and you enjoy and you learn something new. You should be proud of yourself, right? You did it. These are like, this is the wine that we're talking about. This is the stuff that we're taking in. This is the small steps that we're doing. And that's a beautiful thing. And so I'm also learning to recognize those small acts in my life, and that it's a really beautiful moment to kind of see how much wonderful things are happening out there.
Thank you so much, Dan. Does anyone else have anything else to share or question before we wrap up?
Just thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's so good to always have you. Thank you so much, and know that you squeeze us in with, some of the last minute challenges that we had with the other speakers. I appreciate your flexibility, always being willing to help. You always find time, you always find a way. And we're very thankful for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really great to be with you guys. It's wonderful to see your faces. And I'm surprised every time you invite me back. I haven't yet got myself on the naughty list, but I really appreciate it. It's really great to see you guys. It really is. It's like really lovely, right? Like, we see the faces and we talk about great things that uplift my heart too. So thank you for making the space for this kind of conversation, and obviously for having me too. I really enjoy being with you. Thank you.
Yeah. So at this moment, with our hearts full of grace and joy, we thank God for this opportunity. We ask Jesus to bring to them a bunch full of beautiful roses, which is the symbol of Portland. Those big, with great smell. And these roses may not only bright right in the room where Dan is, but may they come with him to his home, and may they last for weeks, bringing peace, harmony, health, joy, and love to his home. We ask you, Jesus, to continue to bless his work, his words. May he share his knowledge and his findings with as many people as possible. We ask you to bless our homes, our families, our dear center here in Portland. May each one of us find our own happiness through you. And with that, we say thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much, Dan. It was great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much.
To everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
beautiful day. Bye.